David Leopold, an immigration attorney and chair of immigration for the law firm UB Greensfelder. David, great to have you on with us. Really appreciate your time here. It seems like there's been a realization here over the last couple of days that immigration status in the U.S. can really be challenged or even taken away outside of the normal process of the immigration court system. And it's having serious consequences on these migrants and their families. Can you talk about how you help protect your clients in what some are calling uncharted waters?
Well, I mean, when we talk about outside the immigration system, I think you mean people coming into the United States from outside the United States. And folks who come into the United States on visas who are not permanent residents and not citizens, they can always have their visas revoked at the port of entry. People inside the United States, if they're green card holders or they have visas, they're visiting or they're working, they can also have their status revoked. That means they have to go before an immigration court, and before the immigration court, the government has to prove that they have committed some sort of an immigration violation in order for them to be removed from the United States.
Can you talk a little bit more about what rights these asylum seekers, these migrants have once they are detained? And what do you tell your clients that they should do if ICE shows up?
Well, look, if somebody is detained by ICE, they do have the right to an immediate bond hearing. So ICE, if ICE arrests somebody off the street or if they come to their home, they do have the right to go to an immigration judge and ask for a bond, even if they haven't been charged. Now, what do I tell clients when ICE comes to their home? Look, they have the same protection. Immigrants in this country, whether they're documented or whether they're permanent residents, have the same constitutional rights as everybody else's citizens do too. So if ICE comes to the house, ICE cannot enter without a signed judicial warrant from a judge or a magistrate. Usually what happens is ICE shows up with administrative warrants signed by an ICE officer, and those are not the same. Those do not give ICE the power or the authority to enter somebody's home. The only thing that can give ICE the authority to come in is a proper judicial warrant.
Let me talk about this business of the Aliens Enemies Act. The U.S. recently designated Trinidad, that Venezuelan gang, and others as a foreign terrorist organization. This was the basis for invoking the Aliens Enemies Act, with U.S. officials claiming that the country was under invasion by this gang at the direction of a foreign government, being Venezuela. What do you say to this?
Well, it's a fallacy. I mean, as far as I can tell, there's no invasion, there's no irregular war, there's no declared war. So I believe that it is an abuse of a very powerful Wartime Powers Act that's entrusted to the president. And that requires that there be an invasion. So here we have no invasion. And in fact, what we have are people disappearing. These people have been picked up. It's not clear who even. We don't know who, because the government, the Trump administration, has thus far refused to give us the names of the people that they have removed to El Salvador and put in a horrible prison down there that is there to house terrorists. And a lot of these folks have just been disappeared. Their families don't know where they are. Some of them, we understand, are not even, have no criminal history, either in the United States or in Venezuela.
What sort of legal recourse do these individuals have? Because they're no longer in U.S. custody and they're not in their country of origin.
Well, you know, that's a really, really interesting question, Isabel, because first of all, even with the Alien Enemies Act, that doesn't mean that the laws of the United States simply go away. And we have two laws in specific that could govern this situation. Number one, you have a law against refoulement or returning somebody to a country where their life and their freedom may be in danger. We also have, we are a signatory, the United States is, to the Convention Against Torture. And it's clear from the reports that this prison in El Salvador that they've been sent to is infamous for horrible conditions and torture. So that's a law that looks to me was probably violated right off the bat in addition to everything else. So how do we get those people out? I think we're going to have to look to Judge Boasberg in Washington, D.C., who's got this case, who's presiding over this case. And I think there will be other litigation about bringing these folks home.
The Trump administration has acknowledged in court documents that many of these deportees that it accuses of being Tren de Aragua members don't even have criminal records here in the U.S. We've also, David, have heard from some of their attorneys who say they haven't even been able to speak to their clients. Is that a violation of their due process rights?
If they're in U.S. custody or in de facto U.S. custody, absolutely. We have the right as lawyers to speak to our clients. That's a cornerstone of the American judicial system. People have the right to an adequate, to a rigorous defense. They have the right to counsel. And if they're not allowed to speak to their attorneys or their families, and they can't even be found, then this violates the core principles upon which our country is based.
David Leo.